getting 2 majors in 3 years was just kind of a check on the bucket list. A lot of it comes from my mom. She's saving lives every day and then still finds time to, be disciplined, be organized, be the biggest supporter at every single one of my games. And it's the least I can do to find a way to be my best in this lucky 4 years that we're given.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm joined by Megan McKay, a defender from Zionsville, Indiana, who's played 3 standout seasons at Mercyhurst and is now preparing for her first season at Clarkson University. Megan has built a reputation as a reliable, hardworking defender, and today we'll dive into her journey both on and off the ice. Megan, thanks so much for joining the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you, Chris. This is a great opportunity and I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your time. Busy schedule, but you still carved out some time to hang out. So I appreciate that. Let's dive right in. Let's get started. And we have to start right back at the beginning. So let's rewind the clock back to the beginning of your own hockey journey. What made you fall in love with the sport of hockey?
I think it all started when I laced up skates for the first time when I was 3 years old. And a lot of people might not be able to imagine, but Indianapolis does have hockey rinks and we do have a pretty big and growing hockey community. And I think it was just following in the footsteps of my 2 older brothers who also played. And I just fell in love with it was a way to be different growing up as one of the only girls growing up in the town playing the game. And it was just always fun, fast paced. It's such a unique sport. And the physicality and creativity aspect is something I don't shy away from.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and you're a big, tall defender. So, of course, that's going to make sense. I like that. Did you find, especially early on, as you mentioned, being one of the only girls playing hockey, did you find that to be discouraging, or was that an extra bit of motivation saying like, I want to carve out my space here as well?
I think it was motivating more than anything. I loved playing sports with the boys. They push you the most. They're always, giving you a hard time, but that's to only make you better. Whether it's playing Little League baseball growing up, trying to get on the boys' teams, or, wanting to play on the boys' lacrosse team. It was something that motivated me. Like I said, with having brothers, you always want to, be the same as them. You don't want to be different.
hmm Well, and I appreciate that you touched a little bit upon being a multi-sport athlete, because I have a question lined up for you around there that surprised me when we talk about being a multi-sport athlete. This one in particular was a little bit surprising to me. It's the first time this has ever happened, but we're going to get to there in just a moment, because I also want to talk about um, so you attended Culver Academy and BK Selects as well, and you earned Rookie of the Year award and Unsung Hero awards during your time there. When you think back to that journey to get to achieve that recognition or those accolades, how did that journey help you to grow as a player and as a person?
I think it all comes down to sacrifice and the way I kind of grew up playing so many sports and kind of flourishing into hockey and dialing in on that aspect. I mean, when I was in middle school, my parents were picking me up from school and we were driving up to Chicago. It was a 3-hour drive. We were getting back at 1 a.m. That was just one of the sacrifices and one of the steps in the process to helping me achieve my goals. And with that, I was always the youngest and I was always kind of flying under the radar. I was putting in the work kind of behind the scenes, but no one really knew who I was. I think going to Culver and going to BK were just moments where I was pushing myself and I constantly wanted to be outside of my comfort zone. When I chose to go to Culver, it was extremely challenging, but it was a new opportunity for me to get better. And the same applied going to BK Selects. I mean, I saw that national team players were playing there, and that's the kind of environment I wanted to be surrounded by.
Do you think that because at such an early age you were challenging yourself to go outside your comfort zone, do you find that still something that, because it was something that you did so early on, that it's become kind of foundational for you throughout your entire hockey career that you continue to put yourself in those maybe uncomfortable situations with the expectation that it'll help you to grow and move forward?
Without a doubt. I think now I've gotten to the point in my career where they're trying to get me to dial it back a little bit. I've always been someone that's wanted to give 110% and constantly be the hardest worker in every room. Once you get to a point in college, you realize that it's more about management and it's more about just finding your balance. So I think that has definitely gotten me to where I am today, that work ethic and, the pushing yourself, because when you surround yourself with people that are with the same mentality, it becomes second nature that you're constantly going outside your comfort zone.
Interesting that they're saying now it's about dialing it back a little bit. I guess at the same time, of course, it's over the stretch of a long season. If you're given 110% every game, by the end of the season, the grind of a season, it can definitely take its toll on you. But it's interesting that throughout your entire career, it's like, I'm giving it 110%. And then you're like, wait, what does it mean to not give 110%? Do you find it a little bit of a struggle to dial it back, to turn that knob down from 11 to maybe 7 or 8?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a really unique, ideology, and it's something that I'm always looking to learn and to get as much information as possible, and that's where you start taking in the importance of recovery and nutrition, and you can't go 110% 7 days a week. 7 days a week, you're gonna be average half the time, but if you're going 100% 5 days of the week, those days that you're going hard is gonna be that much stronger, and you're gonna be that much more motivated. So, I've used it to help my training and put more intensity and intent in the work I am putting in. So I think it's an extremely unique point that I've learned, and it's something that as you get older, you get mature.
Yeah, it comes with age, maturity.
Mhm.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah. I teased it earlier, but when we talk about being a multi-sport athlete, you had mentioned things like lacrosse. One of the things that I had to do that kind of made me do a double take was that you were growing up, you were also a racer, and not just you didn't just casually race because you were actually at one point also named driver of the year. Now, before I get to my actual question, I want to know how did that how did that come to be for starters? I'm assuming Indianapolis 500, things like that probably impacted or kind of influenced that, but I'd love to hear from you. How did that start for you?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, my parents have kind of pushed me into playing as many sports as possible, and they've always given me the chance anytime I wanted to try something new. I had the opportunity, which is something I'm very grateful for. And one of the days we were no Indianapolis is known for the Indy 500, and one of the days my aunt and my uncle were doing an experience where they got to race around the track, and I think I was about 12 years old, and while we were racing there, I saw these kids racing around in these go-karts, and my aunt actually, like, picked up the link because I had said, "Wow, that looks so much fun," and for my birthday party every year, all I wanted to do was go go-karting and go racing, and that was something we had to, like, asked to get me applied early because I was too young and there was so much math involved, and it was just another thing that was different. I mean, racing is fast, it's intense, and it's split-second decisions, and competing as a racer in a very male-dominated sport, I, from another young age, had to develop a lot of confidence and had to prove myself every race because there was always a trophy on the line.
How did being a racer and especially getting to the point where you're now named driver of the year, how do you think that helped to influence your mindset and approach when it came to the sport of hockey?
Yeah, so it took about 5 years to get the Driver of the Year award because in my first year, I was not very good. I didn't understand the physics that you had to hit the turn at a certain point, and this milliseconds meant the biggest difference of a qualification spot on the grid. So eventually, when I got into my final year, I really just developed a competitiveness and a fearlessness, and that's exactly what I've taken into hockey. Always pushing to be better and just not being afraid to overtake someone or, be the best. I always thought humility is important, but when you're a racer, you gotta believe in yourself, and that's what I've taken with the game of hockey. And in my final year of racing, that was a great send off because we got to race around the same track that the Indy 500 is raced around, and cross the same brickyards. And that was the year I decided to go to Culver, so it was kind of like hanging up the racing helmet to focus more on hockey, but I still use that intensity every day with hockey.
You had shared that your brothers were big influences or drivers, fuel, if you will, for your passion for hockey. Who were your role models growing up, and who were those other influences within the game of hockey? Maybe it was outside the game of hockey, who really set the bar for you or helped you to kind of envision what that pathway might look like.
Around the age of 10 to 15, when I was at home and I was just training in my basement, trying to make my own little shooting setup, I was constantly watching the Blackhawks. My parents are from Chicago, so that was our team, and it was their 2013, 2015 era. So I was obsessed with Duncan Keith. I loved watching his offensiveness, his spinoramas. He was something that the creativity is what I wanted to be as a defenseman because I always grew up as a defenseman because I was so tall from a young age. Then I think in high school, it kind of swerved into watching the women's game more and seeing, oh, there are women playing, and you're watching the Olympics. Megan Keller was someone that instantly was, clicked with me. The same kind of style defenseman. And she's someone that I've actually been able to be in contact with and get advice from. Um, that kind of role model in the women's game is someone that has really helped me and someone I will like enjoying watching.
Those are two very solid choices in terms of role models. So yeah, I think those are two very good players to be sort of modeling your game after, or in the case of Keller, being able to get some advice from. Do you find that, like, especially now with there being a pro league, a lot more visibility to the sport, do you find yourself kind of naturally seeing those other players that you might want to start, like, maybe, oh, I saw that player, I kind of like how they approach the game, like approach that play. Do you find yourself kind of looking at things a little bit differently now that there is more visibility, that you can watch more games? Or has that not really changed for you? You kind of just let that noise, or keep that noise out, and focus on your own game?
I'm always looking to be better and to use video to help improve my game. And watching the NHL is something that I was doing every day, watching NHL highlights, picking points of certain players' games because you obviously want to harness your own game, but you can take certain skills from most people. And yeah, now I see for sure myself doing that with the women's game. If you see someone's release, you want to take that, you want to work on that, skating, just being a well-rounded player. And someone I looked up to in high school, I vividly remember my coach saying was play like Chris Pronger, just being super physical. And that's another person that forgot to mention, but his physicality as a defenseman. It's like I'll pinpoint that for my game. I'll take Keller's shot. I'll take Duncan Keith's quick feet, and we'll make a superhero.
My goodness, what a superhero that would be. Just casually dropping these like all-star Hall of Fame names into this. Like my goodness, what a player you're going to
Yeah,
be, eh? When you
one
continue,
can dream.
when
One
you're,
can dream.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, One of the things that I really admire about your story, there are so many to talk about, but one of them is that a real focus for you is is all about giving back. So you give back through mentorship and skills coaching in Indianapolis. And, when you think about those experiences, when you think about also just being able to connect with that next generation, how has helping younger players maybe also help to shape your perspective on hockey and on life?
It certainly helps you be a better, more well-rounded person because when you're teaching the game, especially something you love, it doesn't feel like a job or it doesn't feel like you're wasting someone's time by giving them motivation and helping them succeed. You really feel like you're making an impact. And that's something I want to do in the Indianapolis community. Create some camps, create, skills opportunities, stuff that I never had growing up. There's so many markets close by that have grown the game of hockey, and Indianapolis has definitely moved at a slower pace. But my goal is to, hope that young girls don't feel that they have to move away from home and that they can see that I succeeded and I was able to make it big just through hard work and just the love of the game of hockey.
We talked a little bit earlier about the fact that you give 110% all the time and you're being asked to kind of dial it back a little bit for your longevity. It's all for the right reasons, of course. But do you also find that the fact that you have this opportunity to connect with the next generation of hockey players, do you find that that also lends itself to maybe slowing down and thinking about your own path and how you got to this place? Because you're kind of helping to ensure that the next generation is aware of the path that they have. Do you find that it kind of gives you a chance to reflect on your own journey as well through the sport?
I certainly have reflected a lot and, thinking about how I was moving farther away for high school than I was for college for some years and how my journey and my path was a little bit of a roller coaster. Get my parents to be driving me hours away. But I love that it was a part of my journey because it made me feel a little special that, I was able to make it work and it wasn't perfect. It was definitely not crystal clear. Um, but for anyone, you can really find your own way. And reflecting on it now, I think it's really unique and special.
I want to shift gears here a little bit to talk about your collegiate career, where you're at right now, and also talk about this transition that you've made to Clarkson, of course, as I mentioned off the top. Embarking on a collegiate career. Can feel awfully daunting, especially because a lot of the time you're committing very early on. But it's important that you find the right fit. What made Mercyhurst feel like that right fit for you?
Mercyhurst was, for me, the right fit because of how much the coaching staff had showcased that they believed in me, which I think is extremely important for any athletes in the recruiting process to take their time and to really get to know the coaching staff because those are the people that are going to be with you every day trying to make you better. And if they see and they believe in you and they're looking to help develop your skills, your goals, and give you a big role. I think that's extremely important for your happiness, for your well being, for your balance. And that was something from the start that the coaching staff at Mercyhurst showed. And it was hard to turn down an opportunity where there's a team that needs you and wants you.
How did that feel then? Because, as you've mentioned, like that journey there, I mean, it goes for anyone, but your journey as well is that there have been those ups and downs, those challenges, those obstacles that you've had to overcome throughout. Um, how did it feel to actually to know that somebody just really wanted you and saw that you were the right fit for them, and their program? How did that feel as an athlete? And equally as importantly, how did that feel as Megan McKay as well, right?
Like you said it, feeling as an athlete, your confidence, it certainly helps a lot knowing that you're wanted, and it gives you a peace of mind knowing that you're going to a place that are really looking to support you and support your goals. I think it's extremely important. If you want to be a successful athlete, you need to be surrounded by a staff that trusts you and believes in you.
And so you spent 3 seasons or 3 years with Mercyhurst, and then now you're transferring. You're heading into your first year with Clarkson University. What influenced the decision to make that switch, and what excites you most about this upcoming next exciting chapter? That it will inevitably be just as successful as your time with Mercyhurst.
With Mercyhurst, the 3 years were some of the best years of my life because it gave me an opportunity to develop year after year, and something I'm very grateful for and really pride myself on is how each year I did get better. Like, I know I developed and I know I got stronger, more confident. My game grew, my offensive side, my defensive side, and that was all thanks to this close-knit community, and that's what I love about Mercyhurst and Clarkson. Being at a small school helps so much with your academics and your athletics. And I was always able to get better in both areas with a supportive community. I mean, I was able to go on the news and work broadcasting for the men's games and go to sales competitions for the academic side. So something I really cherished and um, really thought helped me, graduate from Mercyhurst in 3 years was because of how close knit the community was. And, my advisor was my teacher. He was also the one, giving me advice day in and day out. And that's super important.
Was there ever any self-doubt that you weren't making the right decision, or that this might be a little bit, you might be just too uncomfortable making this change?
Yeah, change is a very scary thing. I'll be the first to say it. I certainly love a routine and, organization and, what I had at Mercyhurst. I became a leader my junior year. I mean, it's hard letting go of something where you've kind of built the culture. You're able to have impact and input with the coaches day in and day out. So choosing to go in the transfer portal and then inevitably choosing Clarkson was super challenging, but looking back at it now, I wouldn't change a thing in the world. I think making the decision felt extremely stressful in the moment, but coming into it now, I'm extremely happy because I know I'm at a place where I can play a huge role. It's got such an elite culture and history that I'm super excited about.
Well, and as I was asking the question, I was reminded. I kind of thought, right, one of her defining, a part of her defining mindset is something that I refer to as being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So this is just another one of those things, right? So you're going into this. Of course, you're going to be uncomfortable, but you're comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's extremely fair. I think, you're only gonna grow outside of your comfort zone, and it it is hard transferring for 1 year to a new team and leaving your friends, leaving a conference that you're used to, the teams you're used to playing, the practices, the skills, all of that. But it's only, gonna make you better, and you just have to go in it, I think, with a positive attitude as well. I think you could be extremely closed off, you could be extremely skeptical, but that's only gonna hurt you. Coming in with an open mindset and being willing to learn and willing to put in the work is very important if you wanna find success.
I thought about listing off your accolades during your time with Mercyhurst, but then I realized that this episode would be very long because you did have quite a number of accolades and awards and accomplishments and all of the like during your 3 years with Mercyhurst. But what I wanted to do was, I mean, again, pause to say congratulations on having such a successful career with Mercyhurst. Round of applause, of course. Um, how did the experiences and the challenges that led to those recognitions, those accolades, help you to grow as a person and as a player?
The accolades, I mean, everyone everyone sees the names, the accolades, but they don't see what's going on behind the scenes. And I think that's all with the process. Being the first and last to the rink is something that I've had since I was a little kid. And I think those extra reps that you do put in the gym, whether it's watching skills, videos, practices, I think that is all kind of how it comes to fruition. And throughout the years at Mercyhurst, kind of was showcased in my game more. And I think that came over time just with those, behind the scenes, extra reps, the work that I put in. So I'm extremely grateful for those honors as well.
As an elite athlete, you're trying to balance being said elite athlete while also pursuing, in your case, a finance and sports business management degree. How did you find the balance? And did you find that balance was easier the longer your collegiate career was, or did you get it right away?
I think it definitely took time. If you'd asked my teammates about my social life for the first couple of years of college, I think I found a way for the most part, but I was certainly still a rink rat, still spending hours at the rink. And, I feel bad for the equipment managers now that, they were waiting around for my laundry loop because they were trying to kick me out and the Zamboni driver wanted to clean the ice. But I think we're only given one shot at life, and this college's experience is extremely unique and important to me that I do give all that I have and that I don't hold back and give my best in everything. So, getting 2 majors in 3 years was just kind of a check on the bucket list. And, you know, a lot of it comes from my mom. She's saving lives every day and then still finds time to, be disciplined, be organized, be the biggest supporter at every single one of my games. And it's the least I can do to find a way to be my best in this lucky 4 years that we're given.
Do you think that mentality has kind of always been there, and you just kind of, through the process, through your collegiate careers thus far, have seen it kind of blossom? Or do you think that it was just you got a crash course once you went to college? You were like, I have to find a way to try to balance all of this. Have you been like time management? Has that been a skill set of yours throughout your entire hockey career, not just your collegiate career?
Just being on my own for so long, I've always kind of had to be independent and think for myself. And that's something, being a leader is extremely important to me as well. And I've always been extremely outspoken. And whether it's in middle school, trying to be the president of every club or trying to do the most and, always push for the GPA and all the honors. That was something I think was just in my nature that I wanted to be the best all the time. Growing up in a family, we were extremely competitive. I mean, we're the family that plays Monopoly, and if you're the first out and you're going bankrupt, I mean, the cards are being thrown at each other. It gets dangerous, and that competitiveness to be the best and to give 100% and has always just kind of flourished, I think, in school for me.
Heading into your first season with Clarkson, what lessons, or maybe habits from your time at Mercyhurst would you like to see yourself bring forward? And then maybe what are some of those things that you're like, I really need to stop doing that thing now that I'm at Clarkson. I got to get that. I've got to let go of that skill. I've got to let go of that habit.
Think coming in, there's room for growth in every area of the game, but what I'm excited for is the opportunity to fulfill a role, fulfill a experienced defenseman on the blue line and showcase my talent. I think I have a good two-way side of my game that I want to bring to the team, showcasing the offensive abilities, and then also being a team first player. I'm willing to block the shots. I'm willing to be the leader that is going to sacrifice their body and be disciplined every game. And what I take from Mercyhurst in my time there is just acting like a pro and being a pro. Um, every day, whether it's my nutrition, what time I wake up, my recovery afterwards, it's something I take very seriously and train to be a pro. I think college is kind of like a semi-pro atmosphere as is. So that's something I'm certainly going to bring here to be with the mentality that I'm coming here every day to get better.
I want to get your thoughts on just seeing the PWHL grow, and now knowing that when you turn on that TV, you don't have to watch NHL games. You can watch PWHL games. Not to say you don't want to watch your NHL, but now you actually have women who are playing on the TV. What does this all mean to you?
I mean, the chance to watch women playing on the TV is so important just for if you're looking at the little girls, you're looking like at girls like me who are in my last year of college. And, for the longest time when I was in high school, it was always the national team, it was always the Olympic team, but always seeing that there is now an opportunity to play professionally and you could do it close to home is super important, super special. And turning on the TV and watching women play, but also watching some of your best friends play is pretty awesome as well. Um, Seeing that friends I know competing, making it feel real and possible. I mean, I train alongside a lot of those players and, went to school with a lot of them. And I think it just motivates me even more to keep working hard because I know I have the skills and mindset to succeed at that level. And it's all kind of coming to fruition now that they have created such a successful league.
Is it a little surreal to see players like see I was going to say players that you've played with, but likely friends and peers that you've played years with are now or years against as well, are now successful or enjoying a career in the PWHL, or maybe have just started or waiting or awaiting, as some are, for this upcoming season. Is it kind of surreal for you to know that you can turn the TV on and it's like, I played against her. For years I played against her, and there she is.
It is very surreal because that's all you dreamed of as a little girl. I mean, playing the sport you love for a living, is certainly not a job. It's something you don't want to take for granted, but it keeps pushing me and certainly motivates me because you do see the doors kind of opening up, and the timing is extremely beneficial as well, given that it's a defining moment for women's sports in general, and women are finally getting that equity that they deserve.
When you also I asked you earlier about those role models that you were looking up to throughout your career, and you casually mentioned Hall of Famers, so no big deal. But for you now, I want to turn this on you because you are now one of those players that that fans, that young girls growing up wanting to play the sport are now able to see themselves in. You know, there's this saying, if you see it, you can be it. Well, now there's that next generation that's going to be influenced by you. How does that feel?
It's surreal, like you said. I love giving back and, giving as much advice as possible to the younger girls. I'm constantly getting asked about my journey and my experience. And now coming to Clarkson for a year, the spotlight's kind of on you to be a leader and to make that PWHL ranking, because that's what's driving me. I want to be the best, and I want young girls to see that, there is a girl from Indiana who has made a name for herself and deserves to be on that stage, and that that's special to me. And I think that's one of the most important parts of the game is how you're leading by example, the way you hold yourself in the community.
Okay, so I have one last question before we get to the final buzzer segment of the show. Um, how does watching the growth of women's hockey at the professional level shape your perspective on your own journey? And what's possible in your own journey as well?
My journey, I mean, starting from playing with the boys, was always built on what I could showcase, which was my work ethic, the things I can control, my attitude, being physical, being dominant, being hard to play against. And I think seeing the women's game now growing, and they want to showcase more physicality. They want to be entertained. Fans enjoy watching the fast paced environment. And I think that's something that really fits to my style of play. Being a defenseman that is fun to watch, that we'll do the dirty work, but we'll also, like to show a little flair in their game and a little creativity and personality. That's where I think seeing the game open up more and the women's game growing in that side of things, it's super exciting, and it's you only hope for the best, but you want to stay in the present and have a successful year and see how it all turns out.
How I know I said that the last question was going to be the last question. I'll try to make this one the last question before we get to the segment. But how do you stay grounded? How do you not find yourself, especially when you see either teammates or friends or opponents making that jump to the next level, making it to the PWHL? How do you keep yourself grounded in this moment? Not like obviously motivated as an athlete to continue pushing yourself forward, but not thinking about that next step and being, as they say, where your feet are.
Yeah, staying grounded, I think, is the most important thing if you want success and you don't want to get ahead of yourself. And if you want to play a hockey game, you're not thinking about the end result. You're thinking about the next shift. You're thinking about, the reps you're putting in practice, or you're staying focused on the present with the reps in the gym. So that's something that, through my summer training, every day, just get a little bit better. Focus on one skill, focus on one exercise, one set, and just give it your all, because eventually those are going to compound. Those reps in the gym, those extra skates they're all going to work out in the end. And I think staying present in that side of things is very important for me, and just constantly getting better, getting bigger, faster, stronger. No one is ever too fast, no one is ever too strong, and eventually, you'll see where things play out. But I'm extremely grateful for the journey I've had, and I think that, I trust in myself and what I'm doing day in and day out.
Yeah, and it's going to pay off because you are going to have one heck of a long professional career. I just know it. Okay, we're going to now wrap things up with the final buzzer segment of the show. So what this is I'm going to throw you some questions. Not that I haven't already throughout this entire conversation, but I'm going to throw you some questions, and the whole goal of this is to just make sure first of all that I ask very few follow up questions, as I always say in the lead up to this part of it. But also just to this is a little bit more fast paced, a little bit more rapid fire. Are you ready to take the test?
Of course.
All right, let's do it. Go to pregame meal.
Breakfast, anything without a doubt.
Favorite way to unwind after a tough game.
Think with my family, maybe on the phone call with my mom sitting in a nice tub.
A song that always gets you pumped up before a game.
Think The Joker and the Thief. I think it's from the NHL 2K, like 2014 soundtrack.
Good call on that one. I like that. Do you have any locker room rituals or superstitions?
Actually don't have any superstitions, but because of that, in high school with Layla Edwards, we would always, because our teammates would always do these crazy handshakes because they're superstitious about it. So we would just shake each other's hands and we're like, hey, let's go play some hockey. So ever since that in high school, every time I go on the ice, I'm like, hey, let's just go play some hockey because it keeps it light, it keeps it fun. That's what we're here to do. We're here to just play. So that's something I just kind of started doing before I got on the ice, was to keep it light.
Growing up in Indiana, what's one local spot or a memory that always sticks with you?
I would probably say just at our home local rink, in the town. The one memory is when I was like 5 years old and I got on the ice with my skate blades on, and I just remember like dying laughing, crying, be like, "What am I doing out here?" But it just takes me back to the fun memories of when I first started playing the game.
If your teammates had to sum you up in one word, what do you think that word would be?
Ooh, I'd probably say dedicated, or a name I got, at Mercyhurst, they'd call me the Navy SEAL. So I think that kinda goes to show a little bit of the hard the hard-nosed work ethic I have.
Outside of hockey, what's one thing that still remains on your bucket list?
Think, skiing abroad would be one of the top ones. Obviously, after the professional career, don't wanna break any contracts there, and then, running an Ironman would be pretty awesome.
Do you have and I know I said I wouldn't ask any follow-up questions, but I've done really well up until this point. Do you have a particular place that you'd like to go skiing? Would it be in the Alps or something like that?
Yeah, I think I've heard Japan has good skiing. I think getting a taste of a new culture would be pretty awesome. And then, yeah, Switzerland, hopefully, play in an Olympic Games somewhere
Right.
interesting.
What's the best advice or some of the best advice that a coach or a mentor has ever given you?
Think be scared to play against is something I've always kind of taken with me. And you think about not trying to, you know, be too brutal on the ice. I mean, you're not trying to take penalties out there, but if a team is scared to go against you on the ice, I think you've done your job as a defenseman. And Coach Brian Adalski is someone I take advice from. He was my coach my freshman year at Culver, and he kind of instilled that work ethic in me, and that be tough to play against. Be a pro in that aspect.
If you could give, this is your last one, I promise. I shouldn't say I promise. Likely your last question. If you could give yourself, your younger self, rather, one piece of advice before starting collegiate hockey, what do you think that advice would be?
My advice to my younger self would be to stay present. I tell her it's all going to work out. Don't compare yourself to other players. Your journey is just as special to you as what they're doing. Yeah, stay focused, stay in the present, and be you.
Ooh, I think that is an absolutely perfect way to wrap up this conversation. That's profound advice, and I love that. And Megan, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the show, sharing your story. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about the experiences that have really shaped your career so far. And I can confidently say I am not the only one who will be rooting for you in this next year at Clarkson. And then, like I said earlier, a very, very long professional career. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for the time to give a quick rundown of my life.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as we both did, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps us to grow and keep bringing you inspiring stories just like Megan's from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.